Welcome to Gun Owners of America, State of the Second podcast. I'm Kailey.
And I'm John, and today we're joined by Mark from Vortex Optics. Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me on. How you guys doing?
Oh, this is a long day, and we're excited to get you on and talk. So first thing we have is our first segment, which is rapid fire questions. We're going to ask you 5 questions for you to answer for us. So first question is, what is your favorite Vortex product?
Oh, man. You're asking the tough ones first. This might be the most difficult thing I have to do today. But if you made me pick, you're going to make me pick one. So I'm going to say it's the Razor HD LHT 3-15 by 42 rifle scope. It is just an absolutely phenomenal, I'd say predominantly hunting rifle scope, but it's fully featured. It's got top tier optics. It's bomb proof. It has an incredibly clean but functional reticle. It's got a quarter MOA center dot that illuminates, and it's got a capped streamlined windage turret with a pop up and down locking elevation turret when you want to dial elevation for extended shots. And it's just in a light compact package. And I always say, man, if you want to shoot deer in the tree stand, you can do that. And if you want to, if you need to extend your effective range out west, you can certainly do that as well. And I have done both, and it's just, to me, it is just the perfect all around top tier hunting rifle scope.
Love it.
So if you could make one firearm movie more realistic, what's your pick?
Oh, man. Most? That is... Okay, you may have stumped. I'm going to have to come back to that one.
All right, here's the one that I'm going to judge you the most on. Mill or MOA?
Okay, yeah. If I don't plan on dialing, it's irrelevant to me. But if I do, I am a Mills guy now.
Oh, you have answered correctly, my friend. We can be friends now.
It's just so simple.
Yes, thank you.
All right, what is your number one home defense gun?
I keep it, speaking of simple, I keep it pretty simple, and just, I've got a Gen 3 Glock 19, and that's kind of my go-to that I keep around. And, I have kids, so it's easy to keep, locked up, but also at the ready. So that's my go-to. If I didn't have kids, I don't know, probably I might go with the old shotty, but, this one is that's what I'm running right now.
All right. This is going to be a tough one. Would you rather give up your favorite optic or your favorite gun?
Okay. That's unfair, but you need the gun. Yeah. If I don't have the thing that goes bang, then I don't need the optic. I mean, unless we're talking, binoculars or spotting scopes or things of that nature. But at the end of the day, for what I like to do most, I need something that goes bang.
Well, that wraps up our rapid fire segment. We asked them the hard ones this time.
Man, you guys sent me, there were some softballs that you pre-sent, pineapple on pizza. I was ready for that one. The movie one, man, I'm gonna have to put some thought into that.
Well, they told us we couldn't ask the simple ones anymore. We were going hard.
Yeah. I will say I am, now that I brought it up, pineapple on pizza. I am for it. And I like a pineapple on pizza, kind of a Canadian bacon type thing, and with jalapenos. There.
Ooh.
Jalapenos is the curveball that actually might make that combo work.
It works. It says that sweet, spicy, sweet. Yeah.
Because I've not been pineapple on pizza. I have never been on that team, but I think if you add some heat, I could get on board.
It kind of, it gets weird with it a little bit, but I think it's good.
I couldn't agree more. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the meat and potatoes of this. Mark, tell us about your journey, about Vortex and all that other stuff.
Happy to. So, born and raised Washington State, went to school out there at WSU. So, I'm sure you guys are familiar, but if you want to talk about restrictive gun ownership, that's a good state to look at and could use a lot of help. So thank goodness for organizations like yours. But born and raised out there, always, grew up in a hunting and fishing family. And that's just been a huge part of my life and who I am as a person. like I said, finished up school out there, had a couple outdoor retail jobs, one at an Orvis retail store and another really cool shop in downtown Seattle called Outdoor Emporium, which we had a hunting section, a marine section, a fishing section, things like that. Had a buddy that had gone out to work for Cabela's at their HQ in Sidney, Nebraska. He's like, hey, there's a copywriter position out here. I think you'd be good for it. I'd been doing some writing. And I'm like, dude, I'm never leaving the coast, man. I like it out here, like as far as just from a landscape perspective, I personally find it tough to beat. And anyway, ended up applying for the job, got the job, took the job, was out there for several years as a copywriter for a number of years, ended up in the marketing and brand management department doing media relations. And then, just was looking for something new, different. I still loved Cabela's, and I loved the people that I worked with out there. And there was just Sydney was a really small town, so I call it second college. Just a lot of transplants out there. Everybody's the same age. Everybody hunts and fishes. There was never a lack of things to do. Everybody lived 5 minutes away. But I was looking for something a little bit different, and man, found Vortex and the stars aligned. With essentially at the time a marketing manager position out here, and did that. Everything from this is days of what I call old Vortex a little bit. I've been at Vortex just a little bit over 16 years now. So I was doing media planning, media buying, media relations, sponsorships, copywriting. But it was also during a time when a lot of people wore a lot of hats. And as we've grown over time, we've been able to specialize. So now my primary focus at Vortex is actually our podcast. So, which is just an incredibly fun project to work on, get to chat with amazing people about things that I'm interested in. And, it's like, oh, you want to pay me to talk about hunting and guns and cartridges? It's like, all right, sign me up. I'm in.
So Vortex is known for their optics, which is what they do, but you're also known for your bulletproof VIP warranty. And I have seen some of the things that have been returned for the warranty. Can you kind of dive into why you guys do that and why it is so bulletproof of a warranty?
So, yeah, so Dan and Margie Hamilton, the founders of Vortex Optics, from its inception, have had a philosophy of putting the customer first. And that comes from the products that we make, how we treat our customers, how we treat our dealers, and backing our products, right? So the Vortex VIP warranty is truly a lifetime, unconventional, it is unconventional, unconditional, no fault warranty. If you have the product, no matter its condition or how it happened, we will repair or replace it for the life of that product. And there's a lot of great warranties out there on paper, and I'd say the difference with ours is we mean it.
Yeah, I've seen some. Let's see, there was one that was run over by a truck, one that was in a house fire. I've seen some crazy things that you guys have replaced.
There's some wild stuff, yeah, and yeah, the warranty department gets some interesting stories for sure. Yeah, those are a couple. Not surprising. Dogs can be hard on optics. Apparently, binoculars must look like a chew toy. We've had bears get in camp. We've had, unfortunately, negligent discharges where people have accidentally shot a hole through their spotting scope. Spotting scope tips over and falls off a cliff. We had a really cool story one time where that happened, and it actually, broke the spotting scope in half. But as any good outdoors person should do, they had duct tape with them, and they were able to duct tape the housing together and finish out the hunt with the spotting scope, and then get it to us later. I don't think it was purged anymore, but it was still functional. So they were able to finish out their hunt, and actually, I think they took a big buck at the end. So it was pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome. So let's kind of talk about scopes. And when it comes to scopes, there's a ton of different options out there from Vortex. When you're looking at a Vortex optic in the applications, what do you have to consider depending on the applications you're working with?
When you're talking applications, that's the first question, right? What am I going to be using this for? I'd say a common mistake a lot of folks make is the more is better, and depending on what you're doing, uh, more could be a detriment when it comes to magnification or weight or size. And oftentimes, when you go up in magnification, you do gain weight and size of the optic. So I'd say, look at what you're doing, how you're going to be using that optic, 80% of the time, and I'd cater your decision to that. If you're not going to be going through the process of getting your ballistic data and dialing elevation for long range shots, then maybe you don't need a scope with exposed locking turrets. If you are going to be doing that, then you do need those things. And then I'd say the one nice thing about Vortex is we have a deep lineup of optics. We have a very strong, good, better, best. We're not just entry point. We're not just top end. We have products at tiers throughout the range, so a person can say, "Hey, I need an optic with this feature set, and my budget is here." And you can line those things up and find a spot and find a home for you. And our goal is always, if you spend $1 with Vortex, by God, we want it to be we want you to get the best optic for your money. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I want to kind of dive in a little bit more on this. Are you looking, when you're looking at, like, let's just say an AR, is there a difference between getting a hunting optic and a tactical optic, and which one would we go with? Or are we looking more red dot, LPVO? It all depends on the situation. So kind of want to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, on the AR side of the house, I mean, like you said, a red dot, man, it's tough to beat a red dot. I'd say particularly in a lot of situations where you might be using that firearm, whether it's plinking, home defense, close quarters type work. You're going to be able to do a lot of things with a red dot. If you need to have some magnification, if you're, maybe it's target ID type stuff, magnification is going to assist with that. Maybe you need to extend your range a little bit and add some precision. An LPVO, I mean, that is, to me, that's the do-all on an AR. If you told me I could put one optic on an AR, it's probably going to be an LPVO. If you're using that AR for coyote hunting or something like that, maybe you do want something in that 3 to 15, 5 to 25 type magnification range. Or if you're doing long range precision or DMR type stuff, again, that's where that magnification and some of that other feature set comes in of exposed turrets for dialing. So again, it just comes down, there's so many ways to use that platform, and it just depends on the person and how they're doing it. Hopefully, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, that answered my question perfectly.
So I want to kind of jump into the culture. And I know that you said that you came from the hunting side, and that was something that you grew up with. I think when we look at the work of GOA Second Amendment hunters, and just in general the firearms community and the hunting community, we kind of all see a tipping point, right? Where we really need to be encouraging the next generation and passing the baton, so that we have more generational hunters and people who may have not hunted for a long time coming back into the fold. What are some things that you would want people to know that maybe went hunting as a kid and they've taken a 10, 15, 20-year lull from hunting, that are looking at getting back into the hunting tradition?
Man, as far as getting back in, I would say, look back at your life, at some of your fondest memories, and I bet you'd be hard pressed to say that a lot of those weren't spent outdoors and hunting. I'd say it's still out there as far as opportunities, and I'd say the equipment has only gotten better. Access is always a big issue, but now we have digital mapping software like Onyx Maps. I mean, having a place to go is a huge barrier of entry. Lots of places, lots of private land is getting leased up, and there might be less opportunity there. But we are so blessed to have a lot of public land, and it may not seem like it in your area until you pull up something like Onyx Maps, and you're like, oh, there's a piece of public here, there's a piece of public here. Gosh, there's a piece of public right by my house. I mean, I live in the suburbs of Wisconsin, but I actually have a piece of public that I have hunted. It's 5 minutes from my house. So that's what I'd say. And then, the equipment, if you're like, I like to hunt, but I got a little bit cold, man, the outdoor apparel these days, the backpacks, the lights, everything has gotten so much better. Technology is so much better. Optics are better. Firearms are better. If you sold your guns and you're like, oh, do I really want to spend that kind of money on a new rifle? The the level of quality and precision that you can get with a quotation mark budget rifle these days is astounding. So I would encourage anybody that either has an interest in it and has done it before, or has had an interest in it and hasn't done it. Man, the opportunity is out there. From a sustenance perspective, that you're not going to get more organic than a game that you've hunted yourself, and the level of satisfaction that you'll get when you prepare that meal for yourself, for your family and your friends is unmatched.
I couldn't have said it any better. What's it like developing a new product at Vortex? I know like recently you've come out with the Defender HD and all those pistol dots. When it comes to stuff, like what are we looking at? Are you looking more like, okay, is there an application in the tactical space? Are we looking at more pistol dots? Are we looking at to innovate in some of that space? And see kind of like what the thought process is when it comes through that stuff.
I think it's assessing demand, right? You want to look at the market and say, what are people asking for? Analyze our own product assortment and say, what gaps do we have? Where can we improve? Is there a hole? And then, additionally, we have so many passionate users of optics here at Vortex. That's a huge resource that we can pull from too, because these folks are using them every day. Like, my area of focus, I would say, is on the hunting side, right? All hunting, Western hunting, Midwest hunting. But we have people here at Vortex that are 3-gun shooters, PRS shooters. We have former military and law enforcement that are still passionate shooters in varying arenas. We have F-class shooters. So we have a lot of resources that we can pull from here to say like, oh, we don't have this, but we should have this. We have, and then we have the product development team too, which, I mean, they're just a crack squad. And, as far as optical design and mechanical design and electronic design. So we just have a lot of resources that we can pull from here. And then also, talking with our customers, we're interacting with our customers on a daily basis in a variety of ways. And so it's just kind of pulling from all these different things and saying, okay, where's the spot that we want to focus on? What's going to have the biggest impact and go there? And it's generally a multi-year process, honestly, when from a product start to, once it hits the marketplace.
One of the things that I think is really awesome about the community that Vortex has built is your customer engagement is pretty much the best in the business in so many ways. We know you've got your podcast. It seems like you guys are probably one of the most engaged companies on social media. How has your customers driven your next idea or rallied behind a project that you weren't necessarily expecting them to go in that direction?
Man, I'd say it's accumulative, right? Like you take all these hundreds and thousands of interactions that we have over time, and you might identify a trend over time. I mean, I'd say case in point, with the Defender dots, we call them red dots, right? But throughout time, you get this, little blip, oh, I sure wish you had a green dot. And then, a few weeks later, another wish you had a green dot. Well, now we have green dots in that series. And so that, I'd say that's like a singular example of like over time. It's like, yeah, okay, we've seen that there's enough demand through these interactions, and we're thankful that the customers take the time out of their day to make that comment. Like, hey, I would really like to see this. You were talking about just interacting in general, and we want to talk to our customers, whether that's the podcast or over the phone or via social media. Our social media team is just absolutely amazing. And whatever platform a person is most comfortable communicating on, that's where we want to meet them, and we want to hear from them, and we want to help them out. Oftentimes it's not even optics related. It could be, I've got this, AR and I'm experiencing this issue. Can you help me troubleshoot it? We troubleshoot all sorts of things around here. So
I think that that's really indicative of your all's culture. You guys are hunters, you're shooters, you're competition shooters, like you were talking about. And so you definitely feel from the consumer side the passion that you have for the product first and foremost. And I think it makes we, the consumers, excited about what you guys are doing and your all's openness to hear comments and engage about your products. And then you stand behind them, like we were talking about with your warranty. And I think it's really cool, the story that you shared where he finished the hunt. Because so often when we are putting, whether it's a hunting trip or your life behind a product, if something goes wrong, like you've got to pick it up and still do what you got to do with it. And so those stories I think are encouraging for people who maybe haven't pulled the trigger yet on purchasing a product to know, hey, we're behind this 100%.
for sure. I mean, you got to think too, like, and we want we want to back our products. We want to have our customers enjoy their experience with those products to its fullest potential. But you have to think where we use these products and how we use these products is oftentimes not a very friendly environment. I mean, you could be in, like I said, you could be in the mountains. It could be a more, quotation mark tactical situation, but these are pretty, can get pretty gnarly. But our goal is for the life of that product, for that person to know that we will stand behind it no matter what.
This is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Use code GOA for 1 month free for a freedom-loving mobile service. Patriot Mobile is a pro-freedom mobile carrier. They use the same towers as the big brands, and even to the point where if you you can switch between networks, between AT&T and Verizon and all that, just because Patriot Mobile does that for you. So use code GOA for 1 month free at Patriot Mobile. I think we are at the halfway point. So let's go ahead and go to Kailey's favorite topic. Kailey, what we got here?
Yeah, so from the soapbox, it's where we kind of dive into the spicier side of things. I know we've talked a lot about hunting, but where do you see maybe the next generation coming up? And what do you think their expectations are for hunting? And how do we get more people interested in the hunting tradition?
I think a big one for that is exposing people to eating wild game. I think if you are a hunter, sharing that bounty with people who haven't hunted before is an incredibly eye-opening experience. I think, there's people like to throw words around these days of, natural, sustainable, organic. Well, like we were talking about earlier, wild game meat, it doesn't get more natural, sustainable, and organic than that. And I think having somebody come over for a nice dinner that's prepared well, that the game was taken care of well, and giving them a very positive experience can create an absolute shift in their mindset, and they maybe didn't even ever consider hunting before, but something like that can make that shift.
All right. Now, Kailey got to ask her hunting question. I'm going to go optics and get spicy with some optic questions. All right. First or second focal plane?
Oh, you can't keep hitting me with these questions where it depends. Okay. If I am using a optic that I intend to use for long range shooting, okay, excuse me. I'm gonna start with hunting. That's why I like that 3 to 15 with a second focal plane reticle, because I use that optic sometimes in extremely close quarter scenarios, and I also use it for longer range scenarios as well. If I'm going to be target shooting, just long range shooting, and I am going to be above that top end of 15, 100% first focal plane. First focal plane. Yeah. It really does depend for me, but I do like having the ability to have like my optic on the low end of its magnification range in close quarters, like dark timber scenarios, and potentially maybe not have to remember to engage my illumination to be able to see that reticle and have it stand off in those types of situations. But no question, long range shooting, wind calls, things like that, first focal plane is going to shine there.
I'm with him on that. Like, yeah, first focal plane for long range and mill is the only way to go for long range. And if you say MOA and second focal plane, you're just plain wrong. And I will fight you.
The way I look at it, with the top end of, let's say, 15, if I do want to shoot off my reticle, or maybe I want to measure something with my reticle, I can be comfortable at that range, cranking it to 15 to know that my subtensions are accurate now, but I'm not too zoomed in at the same time.
Yeah, I learned all my long range shooting on a mill scope, and then I went and had an MOA scope the last time I went out, and I hated it, and I wanted to throw the whole thing out. It's just, when you learn mills, it's just so much easier to do the calculations and get everything going.
I've never been accused of being a math magician, and mills just seems easier for me in that regard.
Well, it was even easier when we had the Strylock app, but we don't have that anymore. I really wanted to ask you, I guess this isn't really spicy, but I wanted to kind of touch into it. You guys, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you guys got the contract for the military for the new scope. What was that like from a company perspective to get such a large contract?
It was a really big deal. I mean, we did a podcast on it with Alexander, who is here at Vortex, and he's part of the team that has been working on that project and is still working on that project. Truly a David versus Goliath story. I mean, the team who came up with the XM157, truly so talented, so smart. They came up with technologies and features that just didn't exist before, and now they do. And the scope itself, our goal with that was there was a need for it. We are passionate about military and law enforcement here. These guys saw a path to where they thought that they could fulfill that need, and the ability for Vortex to make our warfighters more effective, and more lethal, and also safer. I mean, that's another one of our core values is supporting the military. So having that project coming to fruition, being awarded that agreement for the to be able to provide the fire control was just incredibly. It was a big deal for us, and I think it'll be a big deal for the military as well.
Yeah, the other question I wanted to ask you is, I was watching TV with my wife the other week, and Vortex got called out by name on a major TV network for a show. What's it like to see something like that happen? If you haven't seen it, I can tell you where it was afterwards. But what's it like to see your name called out either on major TV networks or in movies or anything like that?
It's wild, man, and it's a huge compliment, and it kind of fuels your fire around here. I remember a time when I got to Vortex where, I went to, it would have been, the NRA show when it, like 2 months after I got here. Paul Neese and I drove down to Arizona in a van with a trade show booth that Sam, one of the owners / founders of Vortex, had built. And, and for several days in a row, we answered the question, who's Vortex? What do you do? And to see it go from that to essentially, at least in the optics space, being somewhat of a household name is, it's incredible. I feel like, everybody just had their head down grinding, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, whoa, we've actually come a pretty long way. This is pretty cool.
Now I have a spicy follow-up question. What is your reaction when you see your product put on backwards?
We want to be able to help those people. It's an honest mistake. You know what? I'd say it happens more than you think, and I'd say the LPVO is definitely the one that happens to the most. I think just the shape of that optic, for some folks, it's not as intuitive to at least maybe not mounting wise, but looking through wise. Oftentimes those will get picked up. You're like, oh yeah, and the person will be like, oh yeah, that looks really clear, and I'm like, well, if you like it that way, you're gonna love it when you turn it around.
I saw there was another show that I was watching, and it had your brand name on it, but the optic was, the LPVO was flipped backwards, and I kind of couldn't help but laugh. Like, you have an armorer; they should know what they're doing.
Well, we're here to help those people too, and if they want some assistance, just give us a shout.
So we're getting the wrap up signs. So I wanted to first thank you for your time for coming here, but I also wanted to make sure that you saw the gift for our guest. Palmetto State Armory and AAC Ammo has provided this season's gift for our guests. So you'll be getting a nice thank you headed your way, and thank you to them for providing that for this season.
Gosh, thank you so much. And I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun getting to chat with folks who are like-minded and in the space. And, we appreciate everything you guys are doing. I think we share the same outlook on the Second Amendment. The Vortex is steadfast in its support. It's not a gray area for us or something to be compromised. And I know you guys feel the same way. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, and we appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the years and donations for giveaways and things like that. Guys, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for notification. Leave a 5-star review on all podcasting apps. And thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.